Welcome to The Next Big Thing, the 2469 Community Podcast. Joining us today, we have Waleed Alballaa, General Partner at Sukna Ventures, Javier Sanchez-Marco, Entrepreneur and Business Angel, Anamaria Meshkurti, Investor and Advisor, and Hasan Jabarti, Serial Entrepreneur. This episode was recorded live in Riyadh at The Garage, and it's brought to you by Forward Films and Bellman Media.
So, welcome to The Next Big Thing.
Yes.
Javier.
Yeah. I mean, my question would be, why here and now, no? That's the reason, in my case, it's I have like a couple versions, let's say, the personal part and the professional part, of course. On the personal part, I'm father of two ladies, I'm married, we decided as a family, to come all together to Saudi. It's a big adventure, we wanted to take this adventure all together. And Saudi, as Anamaria said, is the place to be, talking in terms of business-wise. It's a huge opportunity. It's not so well known back in Europe, back in Spain, Every time I talk to somebody, local person or somebody from overseas, how is life in Saudi? They say it's the place to be. The culture is beautiful. People are so nice, so welcoming. So, I want to be part of it, of this trip, and we're very happy to do so. So here I am.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. When did you move here?
In March.
In March. I moved myself here in January. I've been coming here actually for past 5 years almost, many, many times. And definitely, I think this is, as Javier said, the place to be. Of course, when we look at it from outside, we didn't know Saudi, since the Vision 2030, I think it got a lot of kind of momentum everywhere around the world. I think if you're in construction, especially, I see a lot of construction companies here, also tech startups in construction. It's definitely, I think, the whole top class of the world related to construction is here. So when I moved here permanently, trying to really kind of find out a little bit more and make deeper connections, you have a lot of business opportunities. You have to focus, as Hasan always tells me, on the right opportunities here. But also what I love about this country is its people. In a lot of countries you go, people are very agenda-oriented, even meetings. Today I met someone from an investment club from Canada, the York Angels Club. And I said, only in Saudi I will take a meeting with no agenda, because people here have done this for me. And they have given me the time of day, let's say, without knowing me. And you will not have this anywhere else. So definitely, I always say, if you're not in Saudi, where are you? Where else are you supposed to be?
So being, all around the globe, international, visiting between Saudi and other countries while you're living in Saudi, what do you see the difference from your storytelling about Saudi Arabia now than the story you were telling 2 years back before you moved to Saudi?
Personally, I have to say, when I decided to move to Saudi, is because I can see the opportunity. So you can see everything is here. There's a lot of all the giga projects, of course, happening. A lot of opportunity for companies to grow. This is a big market, a lot of youth, a lot of purchasing power. So when you look at it from where do you want to open your company? You want to open it somewhere that is growing. It's going to grow for the next 10 years, I said conservatively, but it's going to keep growing for a long time. You want to have a place where there's talent. There's a lot of talent here. I'm always shocked by Saudis. They're all having the best universities, Ivy Leagues, speaking so many languages and all that. So you want that in a place. And then you also want to have a place where it's safe. You can bring your family, you can live in a nice place. So I think that's why one would choose to move here. But I strongly believe Saudi is a country of relationships. And maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And it's all about relations in the sense that people really take the time to get to know you. People will support you. But you have to also give back to the country. You cannot just come and, I come to Saudi, I open my startup, I get some funding, and then I go back to Switzerland or France or Albania. So I believe it's a beautiful country, but you have to also give back to the country, which is a great thing. I don't know, Waleed, maybe you have seen the same.
Yes, especially that you invest earlier stage, probably in the same stage that I usually invest as a business angel.
Right.
Talking about the relationships, it plays a big role, When people ask me, for example, how do you analyze the companies? Do you take a look at the Excel sheet, the financial statements, and so on? I never do,
Right.
Because it's a matter of the relationship, how you get along with the person, how the team is made out of the different, team members, the founders, how they're committed, etc. How do you analyze the companies in order to foresee, which one is going to be doing right or wrong?
A very interesting question, because any VC investment thesis has to take into consideration the market. You start with the market. As Mark and Jason from Jason Howard says, if a good team faces a bad market, the market wins. You want a good team with a good market. And whenever a discussion comes up around Saudi Arabia, without fail, Vision 2030 will come up. But I think many people don't appreciate something about the vision that is not clear from the surface. It's not really about the programs per se, because the programs can change. Saudi leadership is adapting. They're seeing how things are deployed and learning from the mistakes and the successes. But what really drives any ecosystem, what makes me as a VC really interested in the Saudi market, and specifically, the vision created a sense of urgency that you can find nowhere else in the world. That sense of urgency is what happened with the VC system. It's a clear case of what happens when everyone is aligned around a shared existential goal. So for Saudi, the existential goal is we need to move away from dependency on oil. We need to create a new economy. And you and Anamaria and Hasan all know about the talent, the demographics, the capital, but that has been there a long time before. In 2015, when we established the corporate VC for which is now a listed company, the VC funding at the time reached $5 million only. And that was done for the second year in a row. The year before that was $15 million. The year before that was $45 million. So at the time, everyone was thinking, this is it. This is the end of VC in Saudi Arabia. We told you so. It's not a good market. It's just a toy. Focus on real estate. Focus on stuff. Be practical. Be pragmatic. Be realistic, right? That was the thinking. But at the end of the time, my boss, Dr. Ajada, who just retired from his CEO position this year, he said, VC funding, that's just a backward, that's the back mirror. You use that to look backward, but doesn't tell you what's going to happen forward. What needs to happen forward, you look at the talent story. At the time, a lot of the good talent in the company, they had their own side projects. They wanted to do entrepreneurship. They wanted to innovate. Policy and reform was happening at a rapid pace. We were seeing deregulation happening. We were seeing support programs also happening. The country opening up. Even the mindset was changing. All of this is what really makes Saudi today the place to bet on what can happen in the future. Add to that the nature of technology itself. Technology today has a democratization kind of impact or effect, where it means today that anyone can compete on a global level. You don't have to be in Palo Alto or SF or London or a certain place or a hub to actually compete. With the technology now, it democratizes the competition, where you can see, for example, a local company like Clasera, which came out of Jeddah and now operates in 40 countries. 40 countries around the world. They just signed a project, for example, with Pakistan covering 60 million students, and the payer there is the World Bank. That's the entity that the due diligence is paying for them. That's a Saudi company. And you have to ask yourself, what changed? And my thesis is it's the urgency. That is the missing ingredient that made Saudi where it is today.
Okay.
So going back to the point that we have a local market, we have a regional market, and we have a global market. Compared to the US and the Chinese markets and the European market as well, Saudi, as a population of 35 million in population, compared to the whole region as 300 million plus. So comparing to the US market, do you think that there has to be a concept in place that any startup could place themselves on the whole region level, or should they focus only on Saudi market or UAE market or Kuwait market in order to focus on localization of the vertical itself?
Hasan, I want to know what you think about it.
I have to answer later.
I think in this case, size matters. Okay. That's one of my first questions when I came here to Saudi, is like, how big is the market, Saudi, I know more or less the market, the available money, per capita, etc. But how further away do you get, like UAE, Egypt? Can you go further? Yes or no? It's like in Europe, usually companies stay around Europe. Some, Spanish, for example, they tend to go to Latin America. Some go to the States, but at the end, the size matters, In this case, of course, the same, no? So, and I think that's the opportunity, of course. And in terms as well, when people ask me as well, what is the trend, what's going on, what is the best sector to invest in and so on, I've been investing for the last 10 years. And what I usually tell them is about, the waves and the tides, ups and highs. You have to, be at the right moment to get in and at the right moment to get out and so on. But here in Saudi, it's like a tsunami. It's a tsunami. Everything is going on at once. And you mentioned about the urgency. Yeah. Urgency on one side can be good, but on the other side it can be bad, because it's creating inflation in terms of valuation, for example, in case of the lack of talent, because at the end, everyone is stealing, talent from one to each other, So urgency can be good. You want to do everything at once, but things need time, For example, back in Europe, it took a long time for corporates to start working together with the startups, I saw the very beginning is corporates. They said, it's like you said, your toys, no? I don't want to lose my time. It's very risky. It takes a long time, So here it will happen as well, it needs time, In fact, corporates over here are very, very large, Aramco is one of them, but there are many others which are very large, and it will take them a long time, to get together and, and to connect with each other, So that needs time, So now we're in the middle of a tsunami, which is good, It's good because you have the vision, you have the attitude, you have the push. Everyone is pushing in the same direction, but you need a little bit to settle down, because otherwise the tsunami will break many things on the way, So the opportunity is huge, but you're part of the tsunami. So tell us the story and how you handle as well on the investment side. Yeah. To figure out which is the right, company, and because of the valuation, as I mentioned before, my understanding or my feeling is like they're a little bit too high.
Yep.
So I don't know.
I agree. Valuations are still an issue here, and you have to be very selective and picky. What is happening today, I think that is mitigating this a little bit, is we're seeing new sources of deal flow where either the high valuation makes more sense, or actually it's bringing down the average. So Saudi today is open to talent from all over the world. There's the entrepreneurial license that is being utilized. There's new programs for relocation that are allowing more companies on the supply side to come in. So now, the demand and supply is more balanced. But also you have new sources such as, deep tech, defense is opening up, energy is opening up. We're also seeing Saudi founders taking their companies beyond just Saudi. So the TAM now is much larger than it used to be. So the valuation almost makes sense more than before. It was only just one market. But I agree, it's something that we have to manage as well.
Yeah. So that's an opportunity, as you mentioned, for example, about deep tech as an opportunity. And I would say deep tech is like one of the last waves that we have been seeing, in the West world, like in Europe, for example, or the States. We're in the middle of the trend, and I feel like here we're on the same time, like you've been doing many things in a rush, let's say, in the last very, very few years. Now we're in the same stage approx, where even I've seen like 2 or 3 different deep tech specific VCs, specialized in the field. And you're starting new programs, for example, like CAUS, in order, to bring foreign companies and researchers and so on, to establish themselves here in the country and, and to provide all the knowledge here locally in the country. And I think that's a good opportunity for the country. Everyone is always talking about AI, like the big thing, and you're going to be like a global hub, but deep tech is an opportunity because you're at the right timing and you have the resources, you have the knowledge. Probably there are thousands of Saudi researchers, in the States, in the UK, around Europe, more than happy to come here, coming back to the home country, and also many other people from many other countries also willing, and there's a gap, If we talk, for example, about, big numbers, here on R&D, only half a percent of the GDP is invested in R&D compared to 3.5 in the States, in Europe, for example. So there's a gap over there, no?
Yeah.
So that's a big opportunity. You have the resources. It's a good timing, and there's so much to be done. I know one of the, I would say, main activities where the country wants to be and want to emphasize is the industry 4.0, no? So everything is related to deep tech, So that's a bigger opportunity over there, and SMEs as well, SMEs is, for example, back in Europe is about 50-60% of the GDP is coming from SMEs. Over here is quite lower; it's around 30%. So there's also a big gap and a big opportunity. And there's a lot of support from the government, So I think the next big thing is probably coming from there, and it's going to help democratize technology, get a lot of high qualified jobs as well, So I think that's an opportunity as I see myself, coming from overseas and seeing, these trends or these waves in the past. I don't know what you think about it, though.
Yeah.
So on this topic, on the AI, deep tech, and blockchain, all around the globe, we're feeling and we're hearing the hypes, and everyone's startup nowadays as AI this, AI that. But what's concerning, less than 2 weeks ago, there was a summit over here in Saudi called GAIN, if someone attended, and it's a really big opportunity for everyone to build their startup upon AI or blockchain or even deep tech. But the question is, who's really based on AI as a startup or not? How do you see the ecosystem in Saudi, companies or startups on AI based, comparing to the European market or US market in your perspective?
Maybe going on what Javier said before, the tsunami, I think also there's nothing wrong with the tsunami in the sense that, Saudi has shown that you can move fast and you can learn from the mistakes of everybody else and actually, skip them just like we do in life. I think just to point when Vision 2030 was launched, a lot of people said, yeah, this is never going to happen. These are crazy ideas, and we are all working here making these ideas happen. So I love that metaphor of the tsunami, and at the same time, not to be scared of it, right? To be in the middle of it and kind of ride the wave and keep going. On the AI side, I think there's a lot of, this comes, I think, from the investment side, right? So when you're investing, everybody in the recent years, especially this year, in Europe as well, everybody's like, oh, does your company have AI? And most of the people don't even know what it is. Most of the people, it's just an API that some, startup, now it's like all ChatGPT. We are plugged in with ChatGPT and we are doing this with ChatGPT. So this comes from the investor side. And I think if we as investors, are not just saying, do you have AI? And if you don't, oh, you're not relevant. That makes startups also just put AI in their pitch decks and everywhere. I know a lot of companies that, would just come to me for help with their pitch decks, and they will say, yeah, we should put AI here, we should put AI there, because, that's going to attract investment, and that's what investors want. So it has to come also from our side, and a lot of AI out there, it's like very deep, deep AI in Switzerland, especially. This is something very big.
I saw a very dangerous sentence over there that they're putting the AI just to please the investors.
Yeah, I have seen this. So I don't know. Waleed, maybe you have seen this also. Like that when you dig deep, yes, it's not really there.
So is it the same thing, Waleed? I mean, if we talk about pleasing the investors or the VCs, within the last 10 to 15 years, have you seen companies or startups or founders coming to you for an investment round only to please you?
How much have you
Always. Always. And that's one of the tough things is, when you listen to a founder, you have to differentiate between, is this what they really believe in, or are they just telling me what I want to hear? And that's why I like always starting with the market. Tell me what's the problem that you're trying to solve. We don't invest in AI companies per se. We have many in our portfolio, some of them ex-DeepMind, some of them are now selling in the US and other places as well. But we didn't invest in them because they had AI. We invested because we believed in the problem and the market that they were addressing, and the team's ability to utilize AI and whatever tools that they have, access to solve those problems. So yes, and in fact, that's why it's important for founders to be talking with a lot of VCs, a lot of the investors. Each investor has a different point of view, their own experiences. They might not get it, and trying not try not to sell to the investor. You only sell to your clients, you sell to the customers. For investors, you want to see, are they compatible? Are they a good match for what we're doing or not? And always, love the problem, don't love the solution, right? Because whatever you're building today is going to be obsolete by maybe next month, if not, earlier. But the speed of the technology today, and I'll give you an example. So my background is computer science. Most of the work I've done is in semiconductor defense and other places. And it's very hard for me to keep up with those things. So it makes you very humble in terms of, what I'm betting here. Am I betting on the team and the market, or I'm betting on technology that can, become obsolete? The technology will give you a good positioning, give you a head start, but what after that? So let's say today, you invested in the best LLM today using classical computing. And tomorrow, one of the companies that is working on quantum computing comes out and says, you know what, we achieved quantum supremacy, and everything that is there today is obsolete in one day, right? Yeah. This is not sci-fi. This can happen any day now. And we know Waleed, for example, is investing in Pascal, a French company that's doing good work in quantum computing. I know a few teams here in universities that researchers working on it. They also have huge grants that are doing really great work there. So that's a discussion that needs to happen between the founder and the investor. And typically, the founder or the investor that are trying to build on buzzwords, they don't stay in the market for long. You can. It's very easy to build fund one, but and maybe fund two a little bit when you invest in flashy names. But by the time of fund three, they ask, what's the DPI? What's the TVPI? What's the IRR? They want to see performance. And that's why every few years, you'll see a wave of funds that just disappear. And this year has been especially tough for a lot of funds around the world. 50% of them, according to Silicon Valley Bank, haven't been able to close their funds at the target they wanted. And a big part of that is because they fall for these buzzwords and cannot show the returns behind it.
Yeah,
interesting.
I think AI is similar to blockchain. No, it's like a turbocharge or a vitamin, that you can add to your product that you have already implemented. As you say, a product has to be solving some problem in the market or making a new way to monetize something, but only like a supplement or a vitamin, to make it easier or faster, or to monetize in a different way, but not just AI as a standalone, let's say, So you have to be very...
So for example, if we're talking about the Spanish community or the ecosystem of there, or even the European ones, the hype is built on the pleasure of the VC or the investor, or the government, then the sector, then the investment, then the startup comes last?
It took some years for the public sector, to push and support, the ecosystem. Because, Spain is coming from behind. We're always like 3-4 years behind, Northern European countries. So we are always a little bit behind. But now it's quite supportive. The ecosystems in the case of Spain, Madrid and Barcelona are quite balanced out. Initially, it was more Barcelona because it was more like an international hub. Lots of people wanted just to go to Barcelona because of the way of living, the beach and mountain, good food, etc., etc. So it was like a hub, we have like 200 different nationalities living in the city. So it was quite easy, to local companies or international companies to have like an international hub over there. And now it's become, like the 4th, 5th most important hubs in the region, in Europe, no? And one of the good things about that is the richness that you get from all kinds of different cultures and mentalities and different levels of development of ecosystems. We get people from the States, we get people from the UK, we get people from everywhere. No, so that's something which we are already doing over here in the country. But sometimes it's a little bit hard for foreigners to come over to the country. It's expensive, which is good on one side, but on the other side, for an early stage entrepreneur willing to come here to the country, it's quite difficult for them. On the economic side and also on the bureaucracy, either to get, the premium visa, entrepreneur visa, for example. I know Everyone is working on that, to make it easier. So, but at the end, the best things come out of mixing different kinds of people, from different origins, male, female, people who complement each other and who have different visions, no? For example, one thing from an ecosystem which is already mature enough is like grown-up or unicorns or large companies or local champions, you already have a lot of people, who have been working for these companies for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they start becoming entrepreneurs themselves, They want to replicate what they have seen from other entrepreneurs, Probably this is going to start happening, with the local champions that we're seeing in the past years, and this is enriching the market very much, and this is going to become like a snowball. Yeah.
That's I want to just add to that point because someone told me that the best person you can hire for your company, that's like the CEO of your company, let's say, if you are the inventor and so on, it's the number 2 of another company because they're like ready to be number 1, but they don't have the chance and they're like super eager. So the moment you're going to make them number 1, they're going to like blow your company up. So I agree with the fact that a lot of people, we always think of entrepreneurs like, oh, this young person that comes out of university or whatever and, is opening a company, failing. But actually, there's a lot of people in the industry out there who can be like amazing entrepreneurs. And I always say, like, I'm a doer, for example. I can get your product sold. I can get you money. I can get you a lot of stuff. I have no ideas, 0. But it doesn't mean I cannot be an entrepreneur, right? So those people are out there and they're overlooked sometimes. So it's a good point to look for talent also in these places.
Yeah. Many things happen, inside the companies. While COVID, everybody was working remotely.
Yeah.
It's good on one side, but very bad on the other side, especially for small companies. People need to get together, to be sitting around a table, having a coffee, and things will be coming out, new ideas, new ways of approaching the market, new initiatives, And when you see these local champions, these people, as you said, the second, third, fourth person or people leading departments, they're getting together and coming up with new ideas. And you see tens of companies coming out of a unicorn or local champion, which is very good. It's second time, entrepreneurs or people who want to or are reflecting themselves on their, superiors, which is very good. Yeah? And that's going to make the market to grow up, mature faster and in a better way, no?
But maybe a question, because you talked about the government. So a lot of people also look at Saudi and they say, oh yeah, but this is government driven. There's a lot of funding. It's easy to do it here because, you have funding. So one guy, literally 2 days ago, I had a call with him and he said, yeah, Saudis, they don't invest in companies because they have so much money and they don't really need to invest in anything. I said, where did you hear that? This is such a random thing. And he's never been to Saudi or anything, right? So the outside view, sometimes it's like, yeah, everybody has like all this money and just like kind of picking and choosing and then investing in real estate and not picking companies. But how do you see also the government support? Because there is a lot of support, of course, right now. Absolutely. And the support will change and develop, as you mentioned, Javier. But from your sides, like, what do you see? Because you advise a lot of companies and you have been an entrepreneur, you're an investor, so many hats.
Well, so to put it in a perspective that the government is basing all of the ministries on KPIs. So there's a institute or a firm called ADA, which is performance in Arabic, in English. And it's monitoring all of the ministries. And one of the key elements is how to move into digital transformation within KPIs, based on KPIs. So you could see the race between ministries, who's going to get their KPIs achieved in a right way, in a time frame. At the same time, they're not seeing as empowering, but empowering plus achieving in the same time, because they have to have this digital transformation. So you can see most of the ministries over now are achieving these KPIs even less than the time frame they are planning on. And another way around it, we could see it that most of the ministries has their own fund, let alone the PIF or the funds underneath it. Why? Because they want to support the ecosystem, get the thoughts or the ideas into MVPs into market. They have a lot of hackathons. Even 2 weeks back, there was a hackathon for the electricity company, the main electricity company in Saudi. I didn't imagine one day to meet or check a hackathon in electricity. I don't imagine something as an innovative idea could be implemented as a startup. But then again, every single ministry has this kind of empowerment. Then comes the ecosystem themselves. Now the builders, foreign companies coming to Saudi, branding themselves to be from the Saudi market, servicing the whole region. We can find accelerators programs. I'm meeting a couple of weeks back, a couple of VCs who are placing their fund into Saudi. One of them is coming from Kazakhstan, from the Ministry of Telecommunication. The name of the accelerator program is Farabi. Even the Farabi is an Arabic name, accelerator. So all of this ecosystem is not only by the government of Saudi Arabia, but even the governments from outside to mingle together with the Saudi market as well. So from the government, I can see it's a long-term commitment. It's a long-term empowerment in the ecosystem, but it's moving very fast.
Yeah.
Maybe Waleed.
I just want to add, since we're talking about the ecosystem here, let's imagine for a minute a mental map of the ecosystem and have a red dot saying you are here. Where we are today, we're at an inflection point for the ecosystem that is kind of exciting but scary as well. We're transitioning from focus on startups into focus on scale-ups, and that's the theme we're talking about today. How big this ecosystem can go, and this transition requires a lot of changes at all levels. My go-to metric for measuring the heartbeat and the health of this ecosystem is the activity of communities, grassroots communities like this one and others. This is the real, deal. This is where the deal flow source is clear, and you can see, what's going to happen in the future, basically, and the collaboration between the different parties. At another level, you have the government, which you talked about, and I think what's happening today is the government is realizing we're at this inflection point, so we need to transition from this paternalistic kind of support into a more serious partnership. So you're seeing a change in, for example, of government procurement. The government now wants to be customer number one for many of these startups, especially the deep tech one, because they're not ready for the private market yet. There's a gap, and that gap will be fulfilled by the government, especially since you have technological sovereignty issues where the government wants to make sure that there's a local player, whether it's in Saudi, UAE, or Egypt, or other places, that can actually secure that technology for them instead of relying on foreign players. So that transition for the government is also something that I'm monitoring with lots of interest. At the founder level, there's also this challenge of how do you build a company that can actually become huge, become big? Because once you're beyond Dunbar number, it's not really a scientific number, but it's like 140, 114 in some cases, where if you talk more than 100 people, then the social connections break down basically, and you need to install procedures and processes, and HR comes in, and it becomes very hard for the company and the decision making to be agile. And you see the company flattering a little bit because it's suffering under this impact of internal politics and too much restrictions and so on. So the founders always need to keep in mind that the corporate culture is the engine that makes this scale. When you look at Nadella, for example, Microsoft, what he did, he revived that corporate culture. He made Microsoft the most valuable company again when everyone thought it was gone, it's dead. But it's about the mentality where he came in and said, you know what? We're going to play with others. We're going to separate between Office and Windows. We'll focus more on a cloud that is open to anyone. We don't have to build everything ourselves. We're going to invest in this company called OpenAI, and that will help us, grow even faster. That kind of mentality needs to happen here. A lot of founders still lack the basic understanding and appreciation of what a CFO does, for example. When we invested in Kareem, when I was at the TV, Ankur, the CFO at the time, he was the one who was actually handling the investment round, negotiating with the investors, putting up the structure, the terms, and making sure that the company actually can benefit from these financing rounds. It wasn't the founders themselves, because there's lots of financial engineering that becomes important once you're at that scale. So understanding the right role of the CFO, the strategic and financial planning that comes with that, the financial structure of the company, how it's built out, is also important. How do you do organic versus inorganic growth? Do you do everything in-house, or do you acquire other companies to grow and enter new geographies? Do you do partnerships? Do you do, whatever other inorganic corp dev activities? So these are all of the things that I'm seeing now a lot of the founders realize that they need to do. And I think this is what's going to enable them to actually even grow bigger and become global. Don't think local. We do early stage, but we never invest in a team that is only thinking local. We invest in teams that from day one, they want to build a company that can go global. Otherwise, for VC, let's be honest, it's not worth the risk. If you're not going to go global, I'm not going to invest in that company. It might be useful for private equity, where they want lesser risks and a shorter time horizon. Could be useful for other types of asset classes. But for VC, you either go big or go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think one of the questions which is raised, obviously, that are we going to see a lot of VCs and investors only investing in startups, tech-wise startups? Are there any, between you three, you're expert in investments, if someone has a molecular into medicine or something related to pharmaceuticals, he's going to be building the next big thing in pharmacy, but will he have the right investor on board as a VC structure to be catchy for you guys?
Waleed.
Yeah, I think Waleed, you are the man for this.
I think, for a VC, you're facing two kinds of risks when you invest in a company. There's the technology risk. This is the main engine of growth, right? The technology. And then you have the market risk. So in pharmaceuticals, for example, it's mainly technological risk. You spend billions in R&D until you find the right drug. And if you have Ozempic, now you made it. And that is the greatest investment you can ever make, right? So the market risk is very low for a biotech or a life sciences company, but the technology risk is very high. And VC, I think it's different from VC to another. For us in the early stage, we like to take technology risk and believe, as long as we believe that the team can handle the market risk, that they can grow and learn from what they're building and achieve, the distribution, the growth, and everything else that comes with dealing with a very tough market. But the risk that we want to be betting on is the technology risk, solving a problem that no one else is solving in the right way. And you think you now have the secret of, it's a mindset plus technology plus understanding of, the problem, how it can be solved because of several factors that you really believe in. That's the right combination that we're looking for.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. The moment is now. I've been talking about deep tech, on the health and biotech markets, for example, since 2016. But I've seen, VCs been established specifically in these areas, maybe like 2, 3, 4 years ago. So now it's the moment, and it's also the moment. Why? Because it's the maturity of the market. Spain, I don't know, in the ranking, in the global ranking of a number of patents, is one of the highest ones. I don't know, I think it's in the top 10 or so. But we invested a lot of money, but we kept all the patents in the drawer. Okay, nobody did anything with them. Why? Because the researchers, they like to research and to live on their own. They don't know about the market. They don't want to get out of the lab. It's tough for them, no? So the moment the market is mature, you get now the average entrepreneur back in Spain is around in the mid-40s. Okay, so it's people who have been working in the corporate level, for example. So they know the market very well. Probably they don't know about the tech side or the research side, but they know very much about the business, how to set up the company, how to approach the market, and so on. And now the researchers, it's becoming a trendier, or they see that tech companies or patents are coming out into the market, so there's an opportunity. It's a reality. It's not a toy anymore, as you mentioned at the beginning, no? So you have the two sides. You have the researcher, having, the willingness to get out of the lab, and to meet people coming from the corporate who understand the market. So both together make up the team, Yeah. And that's when a market is mature enough. And now it's happening, right in the moment. And there are VCs which are specialized in investing in these kind of companies because the timings are longer than any other, like a SaaS or any other regular company. And you have to understand, no? And the LPs of these VCs are coming from the industry, either owners of the companies or large corporates, and they need also these kind of patents and new products or solutions, no? Yeah. So it's the right moment now. Yes.
But if I may just quickly add, like this is a totally different game also. So if you're a VC in tech, right? Switzerland is very big on life sciences, biotech and all that. And this is patient capital. You're going to give this money now. You have clinical trials, you have FDA approvals, all of this money could disappear. And also everyone in this kind of space, I always tell entrepreneurs, I see some very good companies, and I'm like, why you keep chasing investors? Just chase some clients, and then we will come to you. So a lot of startups, they're just, even in events, I see if you say you're an investor, they will spend time with you. And then another person is like, oh, I'm a potential client. They'll be like, yeah, that's the goodie bag and the brochure, and go. And I always tell them, like, chase the clients, and the investor will come. But in the health space, you can make a big money for your investment, but you have to have patient capital. And these guys, they cannot chase clients because until they have proven that this actually works and it's not going to harm anyone, you cannot make medicine, you cannot make medical devices. So definitely, I think this needs also a different type of group, let's say, of VCs. I've seen a lot of tech investors in the software space. They will give money for medtech companies, and they're like, where's my return? Why you have no clients? It's like, no, this guy needs 3 years to prove, to do the clinical trials and then to do the FDA approvals in the US and in Europe, other types. And then maybe you will be reimbursed or maybe not. So this is it takes a different type of entrepreneur, of a VC investor, definitely. So I think this is coming, I think, but definitely needs to be kept in mind. So people doing, tech, they shouldn't just jump and like, oh, this is good because it's going to give me a lot of money. It's a longer game. It's a more patient capital.
Yep.
I'd like to go back to the map that we just drew, because there's also a transition happening at the VC level. At least in Saudi, it's happening to us at Sukna, and I see it at some other colleagues as well. We're getting to this realization that to build a big company doesn't have to take the VC path every time. There are many other ways to build big companies in the technology space besides being venture backable. So what you're seeing from, for example, Sharaka, Mirak, Impact, and Sukna now, is this transition of defining VC, coupling VC or making VC interchangeable with technology into a more nuanced view. There's VC for technology, but there's also private equity. There's also private credit. There are some secondaries that you can also, grow through as an investor. And we're seeing capital structures being built. So these VCs are transitioning from just being a very generalist VC into a technology investor with many different strategies. Each strategy is exclusively focused on the asset class. That gives them better performance and better focus. But also they have these other strategies where it's a different product that they give to their investors to get more exposure in the technology space and opening the door for non-venture backable companies that want to build big. Let's say esports company. Esports might not be a venture backable company, but as PIF showed, you can build huge companies there as well. So you have to have those asset classes there as well. And that's a transition that's also happening to the local investors here.
Yeah. So coming close to the closure, what's the next big thing in the verticals? What do you see in the Saudi market will be the next big thing for the Saudis, for the regional Arabian community, and for the global community to start go ahead in Saudi?
So people are the ones making the change and making things happen. I mean, we are surrounded by young people in this country. I heard like 70% of the population is below 35 years with a push. Everyone pushing in the same direction with a good vision, with a lot of initiative. That's the feeling that I'm getting, people with a lot of initiative. Sometimes I come across some entrepreneurs who are part-time, which makes me suspect, and see what's going to happen, But, you have it's the topic, You have the resources, you have the push, you have the initiative, the momentum, and you have a lot of spotlight, from the globe, A lot of people want to come here every week, We get more and more people coming from overseas looking for opportunities. People willing to be part of this story, It's a success story, Just having the guts, to do it, it's a success, As I say, anyone trying to do something, it's already worth, investing and helping and pushing, We are coming from an old world, let's say, with a lot of regulations, a lot of taxes, a lot of everything. And here is like, come on, just do it, no? Let's go for it. So I love this spirit.
Yeah.
So we back again, we're in the right place, no?
Definitely. I think maybe if I may add to that, given that I think our experiences are also very similar. For me, I see Saudi as like a train, right? It's going to go to the next station, to the next one, to the next one. So it's up to you to jump on the train. So I moved here by myself, and I always thought like, okay, I see this opportunity, and I don't want that in 10 years, 20 years, I'll look back and I said, Saudi was the next big thing and I missed it. So I was like, let me go on the train. I can always get out on the next stop if it's not the next big thing, but I'm still here. So definitely, I think it is.
Yeah. Well, having already established that technology is very fast moving and things get obsolete very fast, my recommendation and my advice is always to focus on things that don't change. So we already talked about trust and integrity. It's very tempting sometimes to go with the flow and try to oversell. But this is a long-term game, and without trust and integrity, you're going to lose that game very quickly. And the other part is thinking in first principles. Everything else will change, so always think in first principles. That's how SpaceX was built. And when you think about first principles, also think about second-order effects. What if this thing happens? What are the implications of that at the second-order effect or the third-order effect? And try and utilize that in your thinking. Everything else is tactics, mechanics. It can change, again, like Mark and Jason says, you have to have an opinion, make it a strong opinion, but weakly held. So you also have to unlearn when you face new data and you face new learnings, and be that agile.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to have you folks on the table discussing all of the opportunity for the next big thing. Thank you very much for your audience.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.